In this video, we're breaking down the two most important AI strategies right now, the US AI Action Plan and the EU AI Act. What if I told you that the same AI model could be totally legal in New York, but banned in Berlin? AI is moving faster than anything we've seen in tech before, but the world can agree on how to control it. One side says regulate it before it harms people, the other says let it grow and don't slow down the race. So which one is right? Today we're diving into something that's shaping not just the future of technology, but the future of jobs, ethics, and even geopolitics. How governments are regulating artificial intelligence. In July 2025, the US launched an AI Action Plan, a sweeping policy shift that removes many barriers to innovation and pushes for American leadership in AI. On the other side of the Atlantic, the EU has spent years building the AI Act, a legal framework designed to ensure AI systems are safe, fair, and respectful of fundamental rights. These are two very different visions on how to govern one of the most powerful technologies of our time. And in this video, we're going to unpack both. Let's get started. I'm Kevin. I've been in risk and compliance for over 15 years. From head of audit in banking in New York to chief risk and compliance officer at a fintech in Europe. In July 2025, the White House released Winning the AI Race, America's AI Action Plan. It's a direct response to concerns that the US is falling behind China in AI development. The plan outlines 3 pillars: accelerating innovation, so cut federal and state red tape, promote open source models, stop what it calls ideological AI, referring to systems that reflect political or social agendas, building infrastructure, so fast track permits for data centers, energy projects, and chip manufacturing, global leadership, so promote the US AI tech stack worldwide and counter China's influence in emerging tech markets. It also introduces penalties, so states that pass what federal government deems restrictive AI laws could lose funding. The goal is to make the US the global leader in AI with minimal government interference. Think of it like America first in AI. Let's start with Europe. The EU AI Act was passed a year ago in 2024 and is considered the world's first comprehensive law on artificial intelligence. The idea behind the AI Act is to protect citizens' rights like privacy, freedom of expression, and protection from discrimination, while still allowing innovation. It works a bit like the traffic light systems. AI systems are categorized by risk, so unacceptable risks are banned entirely. This includes real-time facial recognition in public spaces or social credit scoring like we've seen in China. High risk, so these are allowed but heavily regulated. Examples include AI in hiring, education, and policing. Companies must prove that the system is accurate, explainable, and non-discriminatory. Limited or minimal risk, so for systems like chatbots or spam filters, the rules are lighter, mostly transparency requirements. The EU has a long history of taking a people-first approach to tech. We've seen this before in the privacy regulation GDPR, and is also a core component of the current EU Digital Policy Program. The AI Act follows a similar philosophy. Don't wait until something goes wrong, prevent harm before it happens. So why are these two approaches so different? The US is like a race car team, stripping down anything that slows the engine and pushing the limits of speed. As a contrast, the EU is more like a safety engineer, carefully designing every component to make sure you're protected. The EU AI Act is precautionary. It protects citizens and human rights. The message is better safe than sorry. Whereas the US AI Action Plan is about being competitive, promotes innovation and national power, and essentially move fast to dominate the race. They're just different visions of responsibility. To exemplify, consider these 3 scenarios. One of a US startup launching an AI-based hiring system in Europe. Second, Meta's open AI model. And third, facial recognition for public safety. Imagine a US company, let's call it Talent AI. It creates a tool that screens resumes using AI natural language processing. In the US, they can sell directly to clients. There's no mandatory audits or disclosures. But in France or Germany, they would need a detailed risk assessment, human override mechanism, and proof that the model doesn't discriminate. They'd likely need legal advisors just to enter the EU market, and the result is a barrier to entry, but one that builds public trust. Now consider Meta's open AI model versus the EU red tape. So Meta releases an open source model, say Llama 4. In the US, it's a hit. Developers build freely. But in the EU, Meta may be considered a systemic deployer. If the model gets popular, even though it's free, Meta would need to provide safety documentation and usage restrictions. The result? The same model is thriving in the US, but legally risky in Europe. Consider facial recognition for public safety. So, a city in Texas wants to use facial recognition on traffic cameras. Under the US action plan, that's fine, especially for public safety. In the EU, it will most certainly be banned. So the result is that US vendors grow fast, but EU cities don't touch the tech. Let's break down how each region approaches specific AI use cases. And more importantly, why? So, facial recognition. EU bans most real time facial recognition in public spaces like malls, airports, and train stations. Why? Because of deep concerns about mass surveillance. The EU remembers what happened with Cambridge Analytica, and it's cautious of technologies that track individuals without consent. In the US, it actively encourages it for national security, law enforcement, and border control, as long as it's not promoting a political agenda. Why? The US sees facial recognition as a strategic tool, especially in defense and intelligence. The emphasis is on enabling government and private contractors to deploy tech rapidly and efficiently. Hiring and employment AI. So the EU considers AI used in hiring as high risk. Tools that rank resumes or conduct video interviews must be transparent, explain decisions, and avoid bias. Why? Because employment is a gatekeeper to opportunity. If an algorithm unfairly rejects someone based on race, age, or disability, the consequences can be lifelong. The EU is logic. Don't let machines replicate past human discrimination. But in the US, there's no federal regulation, so some cities like New York have passed local laws requiring audits, but the AI Action Plan discourages states' restrictions. Why? Because the US believes that employers should be trusted to choose tools that improve efficiency. Regulations may stifle HR tech startups and add compliance costs for small businesses. Open source foundation models. So the EU treats widely deployed foundation models, even open source ones, as potentially systemic. They may face documentation and risk mitigation rules. Why? Because even open models can amplify harm at scale. Think deepfakes or misinformation. The EU sees model openness as separate from safety. The US, on the other hand, promotes open source models as alternatives to big tech and tools for scientific progress. Why? Because these sectors directly impact human lives. A biased health diagnosis or unfair loan denial can cause serious harm. In the US, there's no special federal guardrails. The assumption is that market forces and existing laws are enough. Why? Because the plan favors innovation speed over layered oversight. Let's talk about the criticisms and risks on both sides and even where they overlap. So, the EU AI Act. There's risks of overreach. Critics say it's complex and bureaucratic, with high compliance costs that hit startups hardest. It might create a brain drain pushing AI talent to the US or Asia, but supporters say it builds public trust and provides legal clarity. The US AI Action Plan risks of under-regulation, so critics argue that it puts too much trust in industry. Without fairness requirements, tools may discriminate. There's also a concern over ideological neutrality, so who defines what's neutral? Supporters say it unlocks growth and removes unnecessary red tape and compliance burdens. So, what are the shared risks? Here's where it gets interesting. So, both frameworks can fragment the global AI landscape. A tool legal in the US might fail compliance in the EU. Companies might need to build two versions of every product. That raises costs, confuses users, and slows global progress. It also risks undermining efforts to build universal AI norms. So while philosophies may differ, the side effects might look surprisingly similar. Innovation versus regulation. Is it a trade off? Is it really safety versus progress? Or is that just a false choice? Some experts argue that we've created a false dichotomy, one that says you have to pick between either innovation or regulation. But in reality, the future of AI might depend on finding a smart balance. We need systems that are flexible enough to support fast development, but responsible enough to protect people from harm. And there are countries experimenting with this middle ground. Canada, Singapore, Japan, all are trying out light touch frameworks that combine safety, flexibility, and adaptability. These models don't overregulate every AI systems, but they don't give big tech a blank check either. They're trying to guide AI innovation like a GPS, not a brick wall. So maybe the real challenge isn't regulation or freedom, it's building governance that evolves with the technology. So, where does this leave us? Well, the EU is betting on trust, on ethics, and long term public confidence. The US is betting on speed, global dominance, and market power. These aren't just policy choices, they're reflections of culture. One prizes caution, the other prizes competition. Both have strengths, both have risks. And if we're honest, neither is perfect. And since we're being honest, I'll be surprised if the AI action plan in the US even gave much thought to the EU AI Act at all. The US is in this AI arms race with China. Both countries are investing big in AI, but they're chasing different goals. So the US wants the smartest models, China wants the most useful ones. This isn't about harmonizing standards, it's about winning. We may be entering a world with three competing AI systems. One, careful, rules based, and rights driven. The other, fast, decentralized, and innovation first. And the third, state led, application focused, and quietly strategic. For businesses, this means more complexity. For users, it means different experiences depending on where you live. And for policymakers, it means the clock is ticking. Are you more drawn to Europe's cautious approach or America's fast-moving strategy, or maybe something in between? Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one. Thanks. I'm Kevin.